people. I'm Ronnie.
I'm Brianna.
And we are the Horny Harley Honkers. So we just finished a journey across country from Wetumpka, Alabama to Eureka, Nevada to Spokane, Washington to Mitchell, South Dakota. And in Mitchell, South Dakota, we had the opportunity to stop by and see the crew at Klockwerks. You want to give us a little bit of a background on Klockwerks and the Horny Harley Honkers, baby?
Well, our relationship started in Daytona, really, where we met up with Lisa Bobo, and we got to talking, and we went ahead and made a deal with a new windshield for Artie. And from there, our relationship just kind of blossomed and into what it is today, and it's been a beautiful experience. So we were able to stop by on Monday and look at where they're located in Mitchell, South Dakota, and be able to sit down with Brian and have a really awesome conversation and kind of learn more about them and what they do and what their operation is really all about.
And so I have, naturally we have 5 motorcycles. 3 of them are baggers and the other 2 are softtails. My '08 Street Glide has a Klockwerks on it, and it's had one for several years. Now, grant you, I went through the Harley Davidson wind splitter. I did the Memphis shades, and I ultimately, out of just swapping windshields over and over again, I settled on the Klockwerks just because of the way the air was directed away from my head as I was going down the road. So when I got Raquel, my 2017 Limited, it already had a Klockwerks on it, and I knew right then and there, I'm not changing this thing. And so when we got the 21 Arctic Blast, Artie, Brianna's bagger, it had the stock windshield on it, and I kept telling her, going down the road, going down the interstate, wait till we get a Klockwerks, and you're just going to be amazed at the difference. So we wound up with the Klockwerks from a friend of ours. We bought it. It was used not very long, and it was in really good condition. We purchased it, and then we wanted the color flare from Klockwerks, and so we made that deal down in Daytona. Lisa Bobo took care of you. It was just awesome, and like she said, we have blossomed into a really good friendship. So we knew several months ago that we were going to be coming cross country from Spokane. We were going to hit Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota. And we reached out to Lisa and said, hey, we're going to be in town. And so she's like, you got to stop by. You can't come up through here and not stop by and see me and the crew. And so we did. And even Brian Klock went back and forth with us a little bit on Instagram because they went to Laconia and we're like going, we're going to miss y'all. And they're like, no, we're going to be back. You guys better stop by. And so we did. We got in town on Sunday night and we had dinner with Lisa.
Yep.
And Lisa informed us about something that happened in 2019.
Yes, back in 2019, they experienced a big flood there in Mitchell, and the business was flooded quite significantly, lots of damage and all those kinds of things. Since then, they have been working really hard to rebuild and come back from that. And unfortunately, and I'm going to get a little upset because it just touched my heart to be there, but they were flooded yet again on Wednesday.
Thursday night at midnight, our time.
Yep.
So evidently when we were there Monday and it was a torrential downpour, we experienced rain. We stayed in their parking lot in our truck camper, and naturally last year coming across country, we were about blown away and crossed at Arkansas.
Yep.
And straight 70 mile an hour, straight line winds hit us in a Walmart parking lot. So when I started hearing thunder in the background, I'm looking at the radar. I got no sleep that night. Just did not knowing if I was going to have to get up and make some rapid changes in our situation. We made it through the night. It continued to rain, and we got to experience Klockwerks at its best. Yep. Starting off with their 8 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, yeah, their family meeting. And it's an amazing time. If you guys haven't gotten to experience anything like that, they get everybody together. They're in a circle and they talk about their wins. They talk about lots of different things.
And they do this, I think Lisa said, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, it's Monday through Friday.
They have a different theme every single day, but the crew gets together for a morning meeting every day.
And prayer.
And prayer, yes. And so it was real impressive. I mean, we were welcomed with open arms. We were invited into the meeting. We were introduced at the meeting. The Klockwerks family, to include Brian, Vanessa, Lisa, and all of the other crew. It was just,
Ian, Josh.
Yeah,
everybody.
they opened their arms. They welcomed us in, and then not only that, but we got to celebrate a birthday.
Yes.
Jacob's birthday.
Jacob's birthday.
And we got to celebrate his. They asked us to stay for the birthday party, so we did. And then after that, we made the long trek. We drove until 1 o'clock in the morning because we were having to get back to Alabama. But it was well worth the extended stay that day until lunchtime. Fabulous place, awesome bikes, and then I guess the rain just decided not to stop. And so yesterday morning, I'm sitting at my desk, Montgomery Fire Rescue. I'm sitting there and I'm doing work, and I get a notification across my phone from Klockwerks on Instagram. I open it up and I'm like, oh God. And I sent it to Brianna, and we reached out. Our prayers and our thoughts go out to Mitchell, South Dakota, and we watched some stuff on YouTube a while ago. Evidently, it's Sioux Falls. It's several cities that are affected, but evidently the rain just did not stop. But anyway, with that being said, we have a great interview with Brian Klock, and we've put together a video. Now you may have to turn the volume up. We're still new at this. We're using DJI mics, cordless mics. It may not have picked up very well, so bear with us. If you have to turn the volume up on your TV, please do so,
because it's so worth it.
Yeah.
And mind you, this interview took place on Monday, so everything that you see in the video, from the interview to the other stuff that we put in there, is all pre-flood.
Yep.
So
some of the artwork you'll see on the wall, if it's about 2.5 to 3 feet up on the wall, or below her, blooper. But if it's about 3 feet or below, it was underwater. We've seen pictures of the motorcycles, and hopefully it didn't get into the carburetor. But there was a lot of pretty bikes in there that were affected by the flood, But I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, pardon us for if the volume's low or whatever, but I think you'll really enjoy it. Brian has a chance to talk from the heart. Yep. And very humble man. He opened his doors, and there was never a question asked. There was nothing like, why are you guys here, or anything like that. I mean, it was just such an awesome experience, and we feel like family. I am 100% a supporter of Klockwerks, and probably will be until I stop riding motorcycles. But anyway, so I hope you enjoy the video. And with that,
just know our thoughts and prayers, and please send thoughts and prayers to all of the areas affected in South Dakota. They certainly need it. Yep.
Very emotional. Brian gets emotional there. He was emotional after the floods, and all I can say is, most important thing that he said to us during that interview, or said to you, was,
relationships are everything.
Relationships are everything. So that's what we're titling this interview with Brian Klock. Relationships are everything.
All right. Enjoy.
Thank you, and we will see you later.
Hey everyone. are Horny Holly Hunkers, and today we are at Klockwerks, and we are meeting with Mr. Brian, and just kind of getting a feel for Klockwerks and what you guys do here. Kind of give us a background.
Well, thanks for stopping by. That's first of all, because I mean, everybody thinks, we're some ginormous company because our brand probably bats a lot bigger than it is. But when you come in here and there's 24 people like you guys met this morning during our morning meeting, and then we pray and go on about our day. The irony of the whole thing is this shop that I'm in right now is literally like if you walk across the catwalk there and you look down, my original shop's right there, the garage that I was in, right? And so now it's hooked to the hair salon. It's where you get your nails done. Right. And yet it's where we used to build choppers. It's where we got started. And so, I've always been that kid. I thought, being from Emory, South Dakota, population 350, there's 14 kids in my class. And I thought, man, it'd be cool if I could do it from right here. Wouldn't it be cool if I ever built a bike or a car that would be in a magazine? That would be awesome, right? Well, now I've been in the magazines, on the covers of all the magazines, and never thought that it would maybe get this big. And yet I was a big dreamer. I remember telling Dan Cheeseman and Chris Weber down in that little garage. One day we were working on this front fender, and I kept being so picky about the way I wanted that front fender cut. And I said, this is going to be the benchmark fender. And they said, what do you mean by that? And I said, it'll be the fender by which all others are judged. It's the benchmark. And they're like, okay, and then what do you think is going to happen with that? I said, well, one day I hope we're selling parts all over the world just like Arlen Ness. And they looked at me and they laughed. And I said, no, I'm serious. I said, Arlen Ness and Donnie Smith have taught me how to be one of the gentlemen of our industry. Meaning you always take time to take a photo, answer a question, do whatever you got to do, right? Because you're afforded the opportunity to be a motorcycle guy. And to work in this industry for now 26 years officially, since I got my sales tax license and did everything proper, is just a treat, right?
Right.
And so I just went to Laconia and just got back last night, and even being there, I'd be walking down the street and somebody would say something, or I'd just walk up to a guy who didn't have any idea who I was and said, thank you so much for running my windshield. They're like, what? You mean Klockwerks? Like, are you Klockwerks? Like, you're from Klockwerks? I said, I'm actually Klockwerks. I'm Brian Klock.
Yeah.
Like, no way. And so then, we'd have this great conversation, but I think you owe it to those people, right? You owe it to them to just make their trip better. So we always welcome people to stop by here. We're literally about 6 or 7 blocks off the interstate. And everybody at my shop is trained to say, okay, you come in, we want to make your trip special. So they're instructed to give you the tour.
Right. Yeah, when we were downstairs and a gentleman walked through and he's like, hey, I'm just giving a tour. So it was very special. So how old were you when this dream kind of surfaced? I mean, it's been 26 years since you've been in production, but where did that dream start?
High school.
High school?
Yeah, I was the kid who would have the notebook and I'd be doodling on the side and not paying attention, or I would have snuck a motorcycle magazine or a car magazine in my textbook, right? And then I would get in trouble, okay? And, before we didn't have phones, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all that stuff. And so you learned everything by studying the magazines. And so it's no irony that Chris from Cycle Source Magazine is now in my building, because he and I started at the same time. He started 6 months before I did. Oh, wow. And he's still the last standing sole proprietor, owner of Cycle Source Magazine. A lot of magazines have come and gone with the age of the new, with video and all the things like you're doing here. I mean, now you can go on Instagram and you can form a Pinterest board, right? That has all your coolest favorite choppers, but only if people are putting the photos up, right? Right. Back in the day, you'd have all the magazines, and if your goal was to be the best, you'd have to get in the magazine. So you knew all the pictures of the best bikes were going to be in those magazines. But then to do Pinterest, you either had to cut your magazine apart, which was like the holy grail for me. I would never do that. Right. And I wasn't gonna happen. So I'd lay out all these magazines all over the floor. Then I'd try to figure out, like, what do I want my bike to look like? I like this idea, but I don't like that idea. I like this color, but I don't like that graphic. I like this, but I don't like that. Right. So I really immersed myself in that. And I would go to shows and just study. I would be the kid who'd be crawling around looking at every nut and bolt and every detail, because that's how you learn. You learn by immersion. You learn by just putting yourself in that spot, or I did anyway.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. So where's Klockwerks going from here? You've made it this big.
yeah, no, for sure,
where's
for
it
sure.
going?
And that's what I always tell people. The one thing I could tell you to be a bigger success or a better success than I was, is realize that you are not an accountant. Realize you're not the attorney. Realize you're not the HR person. You got in this because you love motorcycles, right? So whether you want to be the best florist, you want to be the best bricklayer, then really truly be the best. Like, be the best at whatever you do, and then just take it from there. Because what happens is you think, well, I can't afford an accountant, so I'm going to do this and I'm going to do the books. Well, next thing you know, your books are screwed up. Next thing you're doing what I did, which was robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're bouncing checks. You're getting a bad reputation because you can't pay your bills, right? And so now, God bless my wife, Vanessa. I mean, she runs me, right? And because she runs me, the business continues to thrive. Because my job really now is not to be the best welder, to be the best mechanic, to be the best this whatever. My job is to be the best team leader I can be. So now I have to read books and I have to educate myself on how to be a better leader, right? Because Josh, in my engineering department, Josh, Todd, those guys are way smarter than I am. I come up with some idea, I can scratch it out on a napkin and show them kind of what I'm thinking, or walk out to a bike, show them what I'm thinking, but then they put it into real life, and all of a sudden it becomes CAD, then it becomes a 3D printed part, then it becomes a real part, and then we're testing the real part, and Danny and Ryan and Sheldon are down there putting them on R&D bikes, and we're taking it to the streets, and we're taking it out to the customer, because at the end of the day, if the customer doesn't love it, or the customer doesn't feel like we filled a niche,
Right.
then what's the point?
Right.
And so I listen to the customers. I'll still get on Facebook and answer any messages I can, Instagram as many as I can, and I'll take my shots in the forums or the Facebook groups, or and I don't think a lot of owners do that, right?
Right. And that's the what I have found, and what we have found, is that the difference between you versus a lot of others that are out there, different companies and that kind of stuff. You actually are so personable, and you're so in the moment, and you're engaged with your patrons, that it really sets you above.
And to me, that means
above.
more than all the money in the world, because I don't care about money. Obviously, that's why I failed so miserably before with it, because it's not a big thing to me. Right? To me, it's trying to make your experience better, right? So to make sure you have the right height windshield, the right color windshield, the fender that you like, the fender cut that you enjoy, the handlebars that are more comfortable for you, the foam mount that works for you, and it can be in the right spot at the right time. And so for me, that's a big deal. And I've bet on people when they were a non-influencer, if you will, and they had 300 people, 300 followers or whatever, and I helped them out with a discount on a product or something I could get to them that I thought they were going to give me good feedback on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also seen people become wildly famous, and then they're like, you should be making this for me, or you should be paying me this now. I'm like, did you forget where we started?
Right.
Because when I was a little guy, Arlen Ness came to me one time and he said, hey, Brian, how come you don't have my parts on your bike? And I said, honestly, Arlen, I just couldn't afford them this time. And he goes, okay, listen to me, Brian. If you lived in California, chances are we'd go out to dinner and we'd be friends, right? I said, yeah, for sure. He goes, I would buy dinner. How about you just call me? If I can help you with the part, or I can give you a discount on the part, I'll do it. But I really like your style, and I would love to see you running my parts. And I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten that. That need to be humble, the need to give back to the industry that we play in.
Right.
And are you doing great for yourself? Are you doing great for motorcycles?
Absolutely.
And for me, I feel like Klockwerks does great for motorcycles.
Yeah.
I feel like my team represents themselves well at a show, or like you guys met Lisa at the track, and
Right.
Lisa's a bubbly personality, and now you stayed in touch with her.
Yeah.
And then as I understand, you guys went out for dinner last night. You came into town early. You were able to camp here. I wish we had all 4 of those beautiful RV spots down. You could have plugged right in, and but next time,
Well,
next
that's
time.
a good thing we're pretty easy, so yeah, we don't require too much, but no, it is that sense of community that really draws us in, and those that stand out within that community and really have that as their primary focus. That's what hits us here,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what we're about. It's all about community for us.
Yeah.
So tell me about Klock family.
As far as who my family is,
Yeah.
oh man, that's a good question. My mom was the hardest working little lady, and she was a family of 9 kids, and she was just a farm girl, right? But she worked at the local bank, and my dad was the local hellion. My dad's mom died when he was, I think, 12 or 13, and then his dad died when he was 18. So he's kind of on his own, right? And he took over his dad's seed corn sales thing, so he was doing that. And so I never knew my grandma or my grandpa, but they'd been married 3 or 4 years, my mom and dad, and then they had me. And the whole time, my dad was going to his the guy he worked for, hit mayor at Mayor Oil, and said, hey, I'll take the after hours calls. How about if somebody runs out of fuel on Christmas? I'll take that. I'll do that too, because I need to sustain my family. I'll do whatever it has to be done extra, sir. So while everybody in the city was saying, in our little town was saying, this guy's trouble, right? He believed in my dad probably more than my dad maybe believed in himself. And so many times I think that's the lesson, is you just need somebody to believe in you, right? And when they do, then you'll rise to their belief, and you'll exceed their belief. And so my mom, she always believed in me. She was just unbelievable. And so the fact that they could build a new house, continue to, make it as a young couple was amazing, right? And they were just both super hard workers. My dad probably worked too much, which I've also have that same gene. And so it's hard to sometimes slow down, sometimes to stop. The good news is I love motorcycles. And while my dad was a big deal in our little community, people came to him to get their flat tires fixed, to get their fuel oil change in their car, to pick up a case of Coca-Cola bottles, or to get their seed corn or their soybeans. And so it became the hub, which also meant that if I got in trouble, everybody knew right away, and everybody told my dad the next morning.
Right.
And so, but being from a town of 350 people with 14 kids in my class, I dreamed big, and yet I had asthma, so I couldn't be an athlete. And that's usually what you do in the small towns, right? Because, if you got 14 kids in the one class, you probably only got 20 in the other, and you're going to have to pull from everybody to make a football team,
Right,
or
exactly.
a basketball team, or a baseball team, or
Yep.
whatever, right? And so I became infatuated with really cool cars and motorcycles, because it was my dad's thing. And I think every kid tries to appease their parents, right?
Right.
Whether, if your mom and dad are separated and you're trying to be your dad's best friend or your mom's best friend, and you wish your dad still loved you too, or wish your dad thought more of you, like, that's a continual struggle, and it always is. And so I guess wanted my dad to be proud of me. And so by building the first bike and getting in a magazine, it was cool, but my dad really never said anything, right? And he would tell other people how cool it was, or how cool my bike was. But then really the fast forward to winning the Biker Build-Off in 2006, which I guess you can still see it on Amazon Prime, or I don't know where. Somebody said they just started playing them on HBO Max or something like that. But the young me just really wanted to do something like that. And my dad's friends were all building baggers.
Wow.
Because that's what they would bring me to change oil on.
Right.
And then I'd say, hey, we could extend your fender. We could do this. I would try to talk them into the hard parts, because they could go buy the floorboards from Harley or anybody else and put them on themselves. So I would always go after the hard parts. And in that process, most of my friends had Sportsters. So we were building Sportster choppers and baggers, complete opposite ends of the spectrum, right? But I'll never forget, when we won that Biker Build-Off, and I was prepared to lose it. I thought we were going to lose it. I intended to lose it. And it was okay, because the first time in my life I was going to be okay with being a loser, right? But I was going to lose the way I wanted to lose in front of 4 million people. because I didn't want to just be a t-shirt guy. I really wanted to make parts. That was my thing. I wanted to make parts. And so we did it. We did a bagger, and then I'll never forget my dad coming up to me in the crowd, and he just gave me the biggest hug, and he said, "I love you. I'm proud of you." That's the only time I ever heard those words out of my dad's mouth. And so it gets emotional because that was the moment. I did it. My dad was happy with me. My dad was proud of me, and I'll never forget that.
And it was worth the failure.
And yet,
the potential.
my mom, she just couldn't understand why I wanted to travel all over the country all the time and go to these motorcycle things. But she just kept seeing me win stuff, and she just ingrained in me that, at the end of the day, just know that God loves you. And, I knew, then I didn't know, or I didn't really care. I was running around like a rock star partying. Now I lead my family here, Klockwerks, which I always just say is a wayward home for boys and now girls too. And so, and we do that thing. And I could cry at the drop of a hat, because when my dad would yell at me or something, I would get scared, and that would make me want to cry, right? And so even now, I still wear my heart on my sleeve. I get emotional. I get welled up with tears. But I also realize that it's okay. And I don't care what people think. So if you're laughing at me right now, good for you. But at the end of the day, if you wear your emotion on your sleeve and you're just true to who you are, and you're true to the people you're talking to, your life is going to be tenfold better.
Absolutely.
Tenfold better. And when you do things for other people, it becomes tenfold better.
Absolutely.
And so the young kids that work here now are truly my family. The team of people that we have here is amazing, and they know that if there's a down biker, like we had one last week, and a guy had a neck bearing out of his Challenger, brand new Challenger, he's riding across the country, trying to get back to California. He stopped in because they knew Ian from Orange County. And I said, we'll fix it. And so we literally called all over the country, ran an hour that way, an hour back this way, everything, and had that guy fixed up and back on the road by 6:30 that night.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, "You don't even do service." I'm like, "No, I know. I know that. But my team is more than capable of making anybody's bike work however it needs to work. And I have more connections than, any one person should have." And so I'm very fortunate. So I know how to get this done. And when he looked at my team and said, "No, you guys don't have to do that." They're like, "No, we're not leaving, and we'll be here. We're coming back after the gym. The parts will be here after the gym. And at 5 o'clock, we'll fix your bike." And we did it, and the guy's forever grateful. But I believe that that's what we're supposed to do. You're put on this world, you're given opportunities, you're given assets, and you're given talented people around you to truly help others.
Absolutely.
Not just to say, look at me. Look at me,
Yeah.
So,
No, we're here to love.
yeah,
And
for sure.
And that's the biggest part. And, when you walk into this building, that radiates in
Nice.
these walls.
That's good.
And
Thank you.
I know I felt it, and I love the prayer session, and the wins, and and everybody gets that opportunity to kind of
Share what's going on in their corner of the building.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, because I always say it takes a team to win the Super Bowl, because I can't do this by myself.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, I can sit here at this teeny tiny desk, which everybody thinks is weird anyway. Well, I don't have this big fancy desk. But I've always had all this art all laying all over the place. And the girls, my daughter Carly and my wife Vanessa, are after me to get it up, just put it on the walls.
Yeah.
They're like, "It's stupid, Brian. You have so much cool stuff." And so that's why there's still stuff stacked on the floor over here. I'm pulling out posters and stuffed prints that I've had, getting them framed, because now we have all this wall space. And
absolutely.
it turns Klockwerks into a bit of a museum.
Yeah, for sure. So all the memorabilia, which we'll go downstairs and we'll film that too, all up in the rafters.
Yeah, so those trophies in that one little section there, those are all from Iris, my old purple FXR that's down there.
Nice.
And they're all from that one bike, And so I've done everything I've done. That bike built me. That bike proved to people that I could do it. And people be like, "Oh man, that's awesome. You're going to win the local bike show." And I'm like, I don't want to win the local bike show. Like, I want to win Daytona.
Right.
I want to win Sturgis. And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going for it."
Right.
And so that bike represents that. And, my wife Vanessa bought it back for me last year. literally in 2 days. June 19th is her birthday. She bought that bike back for me on her birthday. She had the afternoon off, and I go, what are you doing? She goes, oh, I'm just goofing off. She goes, can you look at a bike for me? And I thought, you want to look at a motorcycle on your birthday? Yeah, I'm in. And so I go over to this garage, and the guy lifted up the door, and he goes, there it is. And she goes, honey, is it all there? I said, it is. I never had a gauge on it, so he put a gauge on it. And it's missing the two little covers off the top of the shock.
Yeah.
But it's there. I said, I had another pipe. And the guy goes, I have that pipe. So he went downstairs in his house, got the pipe, and she goes, I've already made the deal. So if you say go, it's yours.
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
gosh.
I would love to have this back, right? It's
Right.
a piece of my history. It's a piece of my DNA. And I hadn't physically seen the bike. And this guy said he'd owned it for 18 years and thinks he maybe put 1,000 miles on it.
Wow.
I sold it to another kid. That kid was growing a golf course that his parents owned. He traded in for a couple of mowers or something, big commercial mowers, and this guy had it.
Wow.
And so it's still painted the same. It's still downstairs, dirty as ever. I haven't had a chance to restore it yet. But that bike won me all those trophies, right?
Wow.
The elephant, the little toy riding elephant,
Yeah.
that's my mom. She kept it for me the whole time. I won't let my own son play on it because I know how many times we always pinch our fingers in those springs,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure.
And then all those other little, like the strollers and some of that stuff. One of them was one that my aunts and uncles had that they think maybe I rode in too.
Oh wow.
And I was actually buying that stuff in those old wagons because I was going to customize them. I was going to put flames on them and trick them out and candy paint them for my kid.
Right.
And one of my buddies saw me posting those on Instagram, and he goes, what are you doing with this stuff? I said, I'm fixing to cut it apart and make it cool. And he's like, please don't, Brian. I said, what? And he goes, that's from the 30s. That's a 1930s Art Deco wagon. Like, that thing's worth $2,500 the way it sits. I'm like, oh.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, I'll just give it to my kid. Never mind, I'll make him something else.
There you go.
So literally that's what happened to some of that stuff. And then people bring stuff in that they want us to have. Like a lady brought in all those dancing Santa Claus motorcycle things
Oh right. Yeah.
that are all in boxes. Her husband had, 20 of them or whatever. So those are all up there. So the story just kind of perpetuates itself.
Right.
And so that's what I think motorcycling is all about. It's a connection, it's a camaraderie, and it's a story that perpetuates itself if you're just willing enough to put your own ego aside and just let it happen.
Yeah. So you've been in magazines. You've won all sorts of awards.
Yes.
You have the business. Accumulatively, what has been your benchmark moment?
The benchmark moment for me was probably the month of August 2006, right? Winning that biker build-off. Drake Specialties picked up 35 parts that I had at that time. Now we have like 1,000 SKU numbers or something, right?
Wow.
And then we went on to Bonneville, where Laura set the land speed record with that bike that we built. And on the way home, I was trying to figure out how to keep her safe. I'm a stepdad to Carly and Erica, and never knowing if I wanted to get married, never knowing if I wanted to be a dad, right? I thought, man, I need to protect those little girls. That's all I could do was think of how can I make this bike settle down, because her mom wanted to go fast, right? That's all there was to it, right? And I stuck my hand out the window, and as I was playing, this makes your hand go up, and this makes your hand go down. The trick to our windshields is the outside edge kind of is slightly curved, right?
Right.
That's putting downforce on the outside of the bike. Anybody can make a flip windshield, but can you make a windshield that makes the bike actually handle better? So I made one that protects the rider, creates a dead pocket of air, kicks the air up, and more importantly, blows it out like a V-plow. So the faster you go, if this is 40, well then this is 80, because the faster you go, the more velocity the air has, the bigger the pocket of protection.
For sure.
It only makes sense. And I thought I'd never be able to sell it to anybody. And now we're the leading air management company. We are the windshield kings. And I'm just grateful to my team. I'm grateful to the riders in Australia, to the riders in Europe, to the riders in Japan, to the riders in all of the United States, right? Because they go, I need one that's 2 inches taller, or my wife is kind of getting hit in the shoulders. Okay, well then you need the Pro Touring one versus the Sport one because it kicks it out farther. Here's how we can do this. And we've just worked with people, and I feel like we've listened to the industry.
Right.
And that's, so for me, that's the benchmark moment, was getting the opportunity to just totally give back was so cool, right?
Right.
I mean, it just.
All right, so it's not just Klockwerks. You're involved in lots of other kind of ancillary aspects. Tell us about that.
As far as, what do you want to know about?
Like
Lead me.
Jack Daniels, Vans.
Okay. So the Jack Daniels thing, you know, I was fortunate enough to get a call and they said, hey, can you build a bike in 2 weeks for Jack Daniels? I go, what do you mean? They go, it has to be custom painted. We're going to auction off at Barrett Jackson for Operation Ride Home, which is the YMCA's program to bring troops home for the holidays.
Right.
I said, 2 weeks? And they said, yeah. I said, where's the bike? And they said, it's in Spirit Lake, Iowa, which is the home of Indian motorcycles. It's about 2.5 hours from here. And I said, okay, well, I can do it. You tell them I'll be there tomorrow at noon, and then you might as well make me a hotel reservation, because I'm coming to Barrett Jackson. I'm going to go to the auction because I like cars, I like motorcycles. But the only way it's going to get there fast enough is when we get done with it, if I drive 24 hours to get to Phoenix and show up. They're like, okay. So we went and got it. And my team was like questioning my sanity, going, what are you doing? Why are we doing this? And I said, I don't know. But I also believe that, you know, the good Lord provides you opportunities, and sometimes it's just up to you to kick the door open. I kicked the door open, parked it in the lineup, and a guy pulled up on a golf cart. He said, hi, my name is Dave Stang. I've been with Jack Daniels for 32 years. Tell me about you. I said, well, I'm Brian Klock. I'm from a town of 350. There's 14 kids in my class. I've already done more than I could ever imagine or have dreamed of in the motorcycle industry, sir. I won the Biker Build-Off in 2006. I've been inducted into the Sturgis Hall of Fame twice. I said, as a hamster and as myself, I said, I just feel very, very fortunate. And I said, now I got to work with the #1 whiskey in the entire world, Jack Daniels. So thank you for the opportunity. And he smiled and he looked at me and he goes, I like you a lot. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, and that's exactly the snippet I wanted to hear it in. And I tell kids that work for me, I said, that's your elevator speech. I said, if the President of the United States walked up to you and said, hi, you know, I'm the President of the United States, tell me about you.
Right.
Are you able to tell somebody from the first floor to the 10th floor your story? You got to be ready at any given moment to tell them your story, okay? And that might kick open that door for you. So make sure you have your elevator speech handy. So that's who I was. And then I built a couple more bikes for Jack Daniels, for them personally. And then we did another charity bike. And then it was 2016, and they were celebrating 150 years of Jack Daniels. And they said, we're building 150 bikes. And I said, okay, let me do the math on that. 52 weeks in a year, I'd have to build 3 bikes a week. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah, that's insane.
And I said, why don't we do it with the factory? Because if you're working at the factory and you can build a Jack Daniels bike and you got a Jack Daniels shirt and you see one out in the wild and you're walking with your family, you're like, yeah, I did that.
Right.
So that's a source of pride. And I said, really, those people are as important as anybody, right? So we agreed to do that. And I said, why don't we scale it down to 75? And Dave Stang said, listen, Brian, they told me I'm only going to sell 40 or 50 is what Indian thinks. Now you think 75. Let me tell you, son, it's 150 years of Jack Daniels. If I have to buy them back, we will. We are going to build 150 motorcycles. Because if legal says we can do this, you realize it'll be the first and only time that Jack Daniels has put their name on a licensed motorized vehicle. Not a truck, not a car, not a mower, not a boat. Your motorcycle. And he said, but we're going to do it under the guise that bottles and throttles don't mix. Because people go online, they don't even watch that. They don't pay attention to that. They're just like, oh, great, Jack Daniels are a perfect idea. Let's get drunk on a whiskey and ride a motorcycle. No. Go ride the motorcycle, get back to your hotel, get back to the porch of the house you're at, have your cocktail, and talk about the day, talk about the ride, talk about the stories, laugh about, you know, Joe getting us all lost, whatever the case is, right? And they thought we'd only sell 40 or 50. Dave Stang said we're going to sell them. And we sold 150 motorcycles in 8 hours.
Wow. Never
Never before been done in motorcycle history. We raised $4 million essentially for a publicly traded company, Polaris. It was on Reuters Finance, Yahoo Finance, and I did it for free. because I just wanted to be, if you're going to add one more thing to your resume, it wasn't about the money. It was about the fact that I got to work for the #1 whiskey in the world, and the only time Jack Daniel's is ever going to license one of these things, and it's going to be me. I'm going to be part.
Right.
So we did it as a team. We collaborated, me and Indian and Jack Daniel's, and went great. Sold all those bikes, and then Indian and Jack Daniel's surprised me. At Daytona, they called me up on stage, and they said, this never before been done in history, sold 150 bikes in 8 hours, but there's a trick. We didn't sell them all. And a guy comes riding up a bike through the crowd towards the stage, and they said, Brian, that's number 150 of 150, and it belongs to you. You can ride it home right now, son. And I stood on that stage and cried because these guys believed in me more than I believed in me. They knew I could do it. They gave me the chance. We built all the bikes. It spoke to every man, and they bought them. And then suddenly this motorcycle's mine. Now, as you can see downstairs, there's been 7 years, because when Dave Stang and I sat out behind that house and we were in the rocking chairs and we were drinking our whiskey, I said, what if we only made 7 years? What if this really works? And if it works, we only make 7 years. Then they become instantly collectible, because now you can't find them. So we made 150 the first year. The next year we made 100. Those 100 sold in 10 minutes. Then we made 177. Thinking we really got to bump this up, because we didn't think anybody cared. Now they really care. So let's make 177. That was 9 minutes. The next year, same, 8 minutes. And it just kept going down. To the Challenger that's down there, which was year number 6, sold out in 45 seconds. You needed to have a timestamp on the date, on the email of when you sent it in as a dealer, to figure out who got one wherever in the world, right? Because you got to remember, whatever number we made, if it was 107 or 177 or 100 or 150, that was for the entire world.
Right.
So there might be 80 in the U.S. and 20 everywhere
Overseas,
else. Right?
yeah.
And so it's really been a treat. But those guys have been good to me. They've allowed me incredible opportunities. And I'm not a huge drinker, right? But Jack Daniel's understands families. Jack Daniel's understands relationships. And they're amazing at relationships. And so when you go to Jack Daniel's, when you go to Lynchburg, even if you don't drink, you need to go take a tour of that place. Right. And you will understand how the world's most popular whiskey is made in a town of 660 people. Wow. So you can be from a town of 350 people, you can make all the whiskey from a town of 660 people, or you can be from a town of 6 million people. But you have to believe in yourself, someone else has to believe in you, and you have to knock open those doors and work extra hard, and the relationships will come. Right. And if you foster those relationships, you'll be a success at whatever you do.
Yeah, the door's always open.
Yeah,
somewhere.
So really, that's me, and I have incredible opportunities, and I get to tell stories about every piece of stuff in this building, because of truly, it's all about relationships. Right. And so I'm guilty of saying relationships are everything. And so when you come to work for me, I'll tell you, I have 3 words for you: relationships are everything. Because if you foster the relationships, you realize the relationships, you respect those relationships, you'll realize that everywhere we go, we're going to do good. Right. And it's not that I don't fall down, not that I don't have enemies, not that I don't have people that don't like me or think I cheated them or wronged them or whatever, right? That's life. We're humans. Yeah. But if you put that relationship as the priority, they always say it's a teeter-totter, right? Right, yeah. Teeter-totters don't work if this guy just sits down here. That's right. You both got to do your part, right? Yep. And so
you got to keep that balance.
It's a lot of hard work.
It is. So, but we certainly appreciate you. Everything that you bring to the community, everything that you bring to your family, including us. I feel like we're included in that as well. And we're so thankful.
Well, stop back anytime.
Absolutely.
And if you come to Sturgis, don't forget, we throw a pre-Sturgis party that's incredible. Right. Started out as 50 people in the parking lot, then it became 100 people, then it became 500 people, now it's 5,000 people downtown Mitchell on Thursday night. This year it'll be August 1st, and so the Thursday before Sturgis. So come here, we'll have some cool stunts, motorcycle entertainment, there'll be a motorcycle show, car show downtown, old tractors. People will have their businesses open downtown, food trucks, there'll be a band playing, and the community comes out to see you guys and bring your bikes to Sturgis or bring your bikes to Mitchell, because they get a little piece of Sturgis here in Mitchell, South Dakota. So it's called the Palace City Pre-Sturgis Party. It just started out as a bunch of friends hanging out in the parking lot, and now it's become a bunch of friends kicking it downtown Main Street, Mitchell.
Seven years of Jack Daniels motorcycles made by Indian Jack Daniels, Lynchburg, Tennessee.